You've read the title of the video, so this challenge should be self-explanatory. Can you beat Sonic Frontiers without collecting any rings? The rules are fairly simple. Sonic can't pick up any rings, excluding the red rings from cyberspace stages, and if he does, I have to load back to a point before the ring or rings were picked up. Obviously I can't give you the answer to this straight away as it would ruin the video, but I can tell you that the first cyber stage can be beaten, as our only real obstruction is this wall, which we can get over using a homing attack. And with that, stage 1 is finished with all the red rings, but sadly we couldn't get S rank time. However, our luck soon runs dry with the second cyber stage. As you can see, Sonic is forced to move in a straight line for the first 6 seconds, causing us to pick up the rings. There is a way to skip the stage by using the power boost mechanic, which we have to cheat to get, as obviously the whole no ring thing. After a few attempts, we land on the invisible wall. In the next step, we line ourselves up and boost, then boost some more, jump and dodge, hoping to lock onto the spring. Which, surprisingly, took a few attempts. After popping off, we make our way out of the tutorial section and dodge the rings along the way. This is when I find out we can't get any emeralds or continue with the island, even after entering another cyber stage. After feeling pretty sad about the fact that I'm already stuck despite cheating, I look into another glitch, which I thought would be impossible, as it requires a stomp attack, which requires 16 extra levels, which I can't get as enemies don't respawn in the tutorial, and I can't use Cycloop to get the skill pieces. Until I find out about a pre-order bonus for the game, which gives 16 skill points in a DLC called The Adventurer's Treasure Box. While I can't go back in time and pre-order the game, I can give myself some skill points. Adding only 7 of the skill points, I can use the air trick skill to get the stomp attack. Then I can attempt the glitch on the tower mini-boss, which involves me dodging, using the stomp attack, and then quickly boosting, which takes a few tries. We then have to do the same to get into the boss arena, which we finally manage. Then, we have to find the point to spawn Giganto. Once we do, we carry on as normal, apart from the fact that we can't climb. This boss fight is fairly easy, and we rely on the stomping and cyclone skill to kill the boss in the limited time we have. I apologise if the speed up seems a little bit too much, but I don't want the video to go on for too long. The start of the second island goes smoothly, with this relying on buried treasure for a large portion of the memories and keys needed to complete the island. We then get on to our next two cyber stages, with 2-4 on the left and 2-2 on the right. Most of the stages will be shown side by side, so the video isn't too long. 2-4 was pretty easy, and only requires us to skip some loop-de-loops to get a good time and to avoid any rings. 2-2 on the other hand is slightly harder, with the third red ring being at the end of a line of rings, which you would normally get by using a light speed dash. A well-timed homing attack does the job, however. I should also add that I'll be trying to pick up as many purple coins as possible. We move on to stage 2-6 and 2-1, with 2-6 on the left and 2-1 on the right. 2-6 was fairly simple and straightforward. 2-1 not so much. The first red coin was somewhat difficult to get, as I hadn't even noticed it in my first few attempts at the stage. The other big issue were the rails, as Sonic goes much faster and is much harder to slow down, making avoiding the various trails of rings very difficult. Some of you may have noticed at the end of a cyber stage I'm not given any keys. This is down to the fact that I replayed the cyber stages in the menus so I could get shorter times for the video. The next thing we do is use the glitch we used on the previous islands to get up to where one of the Chaos Emeralds are, as the normal path isn't possible, and we activate the shortcut. Our next section was the first roadblock for the island. Parts of the game that limit Sonic's movement or are on rails, not literal rails, are the biggest problem for the challenge. The issue with the chase scene was the laser walls, which require Sonic to use a ramp. This was until I realised I could go over the laser walls by using the alternative path, without picking up any rings. The rest of the section goes by easily, as long as I focus on trying to use the high ground to give me options. The rest of the island was straightforward, until we get to the next cyber stage, 2-5, the hardest cyber stage for the challenge. The first part of the stage is easy, so long as you memorise it. The only bit of the first section I had trouble with was the third red ring, which sat in between a dash ring and a dash panel. The last half of the level is a little more tricky. We use a cloud to make our way towards the finish, which is difficult for obvious reasons, only then to have to drop onto a red ring, which is right above some normal rings. After that, the stage is over. After a quick fishing trip and crane minigame, we're ready for the boss. The tower is fairly simple and the boss chase isn't different from a normal playthrough. The boss on the other hand is slightly more difficult as we're forced to constantly move forward, but if we're able to move to the top right corner, we can avoid all the rings and drag our way through the boss. We now start the third island with 2 more cyber stages, with 3-3 on the left and 3-5 on the right. 3-3 is easy so long as we don't use the stage's gimmick of being able to drift around corners. 3-5 is way more difficult as the stage takes much longer to complete, allowing for more potential stops to mess up. After multiple tries, I finally get the route and time down. We then move on to the first challenge which nearly made me quit, the squid chase. It's all the weaknesses of the challenge in one: a 2D/limited movement zone, limited routes, and a timer in the form of a disappearing squid trail. But after a few tries we managed to get quite far, until we get to the saw blade jump. The only way was to jump onto or over the platform to get around the blade. Or was it? After a few attempts, I noticed that the blade position would change, meaning that the timing of when I reach the blade could be the answer, although getting there late isn't necessarily easy with the fading path. Eventually, I time it perfectly, but I mess up the jump and don't quite make it. Until we try again. Sonic makes it just barely on the trail. Luckily the rest is fairly simple and I can sit back and relax. After that we have stage 3-4, which is a breeze in comparison to the Squid Game. The next I Give Up section comes in the form of an underground passageway to one of the emeralds. It's fairly normal until we get to the end, which involves travelling up a spiral. Which ends in a trail of rings, which also features a speed boost nearby to force us into the rings. Thanks to the power of editing, you guys don't have to watch me repeatedly try the same thing over and over again, or to try to come up with some unsuccessful alternatives. In the end, I realise that the camera has a big impact on the jump, and I find an angle to give me the best chance and make it. Sadly, it isn't over. The only way to get off the island is to walk along the floating path, which leads to boost rings and a trail of coins. After trying a few things unsuccessfully, I go back from where I came from using the stomp glitch. Only to find out the path is one way. Like most problems in this challenge, and to a lesser extent life, the best option is to retread old ground. This is where we find a group of enemies on the island, and I think you know what this means. We then use the same on the spider mini-boss to get to the fishing minigame. Next is the skydiving minigame, which we need to complete to get to the other section of the island. Thankfully, the minigame gives us little resistance, so long as we pick up the correct boost rings. We then pick up the next emerald using the glitch. I also won't be counting the rings in the pinball minigame because, come on. The night boss, similar to Giganto, is simply a race against time. For some strange reason though, the ring count seems to reset after this cutscene. Now we start with that one island with all the towers, and obviously start with the closest. Before starting the challenge, the towers were my biggest fear, as most of them only have 1 or 2 routes to the top, severely limiting my options. Climbing the first tower I felt quite relieved as there wasn't an obstacle in sight. Annoyingly, there was a trail of rings blocking my path, but I could creep round them. And with that, we take a nice walk to the top. We then skip to halfway up the second tower, which requires us to follow a rail with rings on it. While I could go to another tower, no matter what, I'm going to have to get to the top of this one. After some research, I find a video about a glitch called Hit and Run, which requires the skill Recovery Smash. After collecting enough skill points for what must have been an hour or so, we finally give it a go. But first, we'll use the Stomp glitch to get up another tower, which will be our base of operations. The glitch is performed by Sonic performing his Recovery Smash and then quickly boosting, causing him to go flying. Or at least, that's what it should do if you pull it off correctly. Although sometimes Sonic gets too high, I like to say I got better at doing this, but in reality, I just brute forced my way through. We start the final island with 4-6. One of my favourite stages, as you can use a skateboard, and everyone knows skateboards, hoverboards and snowboards are cool. And with the ability to slow down by spamming the jump, the stage is simple. Then we have stage 4-8, which I couldn't get an S rank time and all the red rings, so I split it into two. Here we run into another problem, but this time it's because my footage gets corrupted. So I'll do it again, but this time there won't be a Chaos Emerald at the end. I also had no idea you could climb the side of these things. The island overall is quite short, so after some fishing, we finally grab the last Chaos Emerald and fight the boss. Supreme, like the rest of the bosses, is fairly simple. I obviously won't be showing the final boss, because it's no different from a normal playthrough. I apologise for not being good at the whole commentary aspect, but I do plan to improve in the next few videos. If you have any recommendations for games or challenges, please put them in the comments below. And with that, the game's over, and thank you for watching.